Welcome to our Square Valley Communication and Business Institute Valley. So we're here to invite you into this topic from Europe Together, talking about major global change in a world in transformation in the 21st century. Please welcome our honorable guest from Europe Together, Mr. Benjamin and friends, and then the communication students in Bali, and everyone who came here today. We will invite Mr. Benjamin to take the lead from here, please.
So first, thank you everyone for coming. So I hope this presentation will help you to understand many aspects of the world in which we live in, and particularly at this moment of our human history, which, as you will see during the transportation, and you probably already feel it deep inside you, is a critical moment for all of us. Yeah? It's a moment, as the presentation says, of challenges and opportunities and big transformations. Before we start, can I ask you to make sure that you don't get disturbed by your phone? So just do like me, like put it in silent and make sure, unless you want to film the presentation, but we are filming, so if some of you want to get the presentation later, we can send it to you, so it's not really useful. Why am I asking you that? Because my task today is to make sure that you receive as much as the knowledge that I have to share with you today. And trust me, some of it will be heavy, some of it will be deep, and not necessarily easy. To give you a bit of background about me before we start the presentation, I've had a very successful corporate career for about 10 years. I had everything that most of us consider success. Money, recognition, career, and I decided to quit despite all of this. And you can imagine I was having a corporate career in Bali. So the dream life, you know, really, I was like, oh, Benjamin, you're so lucky. Any idea why I quit? Because I started to really worry about what we were going as a society in which I was taking full part. Yeah. And I asked myself a lot of questions about what is happening on this globe at the moment, because it seems that we are taking a direction that might not be the best for all of us. Yeah. After quitting my career, I went to learn about myself and the world in which we live. And that led me to found the NGO that is called New World Together. It's a think tank and an advocacy group. And what we do is we focus on the deep roots of our global challenges so that we can turn them into an opportunity to learn and to evolve as individuals, as a society, as a species. The content I will share with you today is part of the knowledge that we have learned in this journey, because it's not only me, it's also the team that's with me, it's also you. Yeah? It's all of us together. You might not understand everything, but I'll do my best so that you can connect the dots between all the knowledge that I will share. Because ultimately, one thing that I have learned is that everything is interdependent and interconnected. In this universe, everything depends on one another. Yeah? So do we. So it's really important when we want to understand the world in which we live, to understand how these dots connect. And so we can start to make sense of what could look like a little bit of nonsense. Yeah? A long journey in my life was how do I make sense of all of this, because a lot of it did not make sense to me. And I actually realize that by connecting the dots, we can start to understand a lot about ourselves and about what's happening on our planet. Yeah? So this presentation will use different type of tools so that we can understand the subject. Some of them are here. We are going to have psychology, a little bit of psychology. We are going to have history. We're going to have anthropology, environmental science, economy, geopolitics, and sociology. So, and there is more to that, yeah? But that's the main subject that will appear in the presentation. So don't be too confused if suddenly we are talking about one subject and then one other, yeah? And I'll do my best to explain you how these subjects support one another to understand our human reality. Okay? Also, I really invite you to talk. Some moment I will ask you questions. And do not be afraid to speak. Because what I am sharing, if I am not lying to you, you already know intuitively. We all know deep inside. Yeah? But very often we cannot see because it's too much stuff in our minds. We cannot look inside. Yeah? So what I am here to share, if it's true, you will probably know it intuitively. So I will ask you a question and you will see that one thing that I notice is when we ask a good question, we always have a good response. And that's amazing because the responses are in all of us. Yeah? That's also a call for you to trust yourself in your ability to learn and to understand maybe not everything today, but if not today, in the future. Yeah? I'm really inviting you to learn to trust yourself and your intuition because it's something that we've lost. And it's part of the reason why we have so many challenges today. Yeah? We ready? Yes? We're all on board? All right, let's go. So we are going to take a big step back. Yeah? Because to understand what's happening on the planet, you know, many people say, act local, think global. But actually, almost all of us think local and act local. Yeah? So to think global, we need to take a big step back. So look at our reality from a holistic point of view. Yeah? Not from a country point of view, not from a region point of view, but from a global point of view. And this will help us to understand what are the forces at play at the moment on our planet, and where is this taking us? Yeah? So when we understand the mechanism that is taking humanity on a journey, we can learn how to change it. It is as simple as that. Yeah? It's like when you have a car and you're driving it. If you don't know mechanic and you have a problem, you don't know how to repair it. But if you understand the mechanic, it's become easy. You will know which part is deficient, and you will know how to repair it and to change it. It's the same with the mechanic of humanity. Yeah? So we'll try today to understand more about this mechanic and about ourselves. Because ultimately, I might be French, you might be Indonesian or something else, but we all belong to this amazing species, which is called humanity. Yeah? And that's the most important. That's it. So, I'm going to ask you a question to start with. Hello. Please take a seat. So, according to you, and you might have some ideas because, like me, you have a sense of observation. What are some of the big global challenges that we face today? What is the first one that comes to your mind? Ignorance? Yeah. Big one. Okay, what else?
Poverty.
Poverty. Yeah. What else? You know, most of you are just shy to talk. Try and don't be afraid to be wrong, because nobody is going to kill you today if you are wrong. This is a safe space where you have the right to be wrong. And you will see that very often you are not, you're just afraid to speak. Who wants to try? Maybe fear is one of them, yeah? We are afraid to speak. All is good. So we will see them together, so don't worry. I'm sure you have many of them in your mind, and they will come up in the presentation. And if they don't, please tell me at the end, hey, I had this one and it didn't come, yeah? Because maybe you see something that I don't see, and you have something to teach me today, yeah? If you don't say it, I will never know. Okay. So one of the major global challenges that we face is social challenges. I'm going to give you some of the aspects of it. There are others, but just the main ones. Well, the first aspect is that our world population has grown a lot, especially in the last 50 years. So about 50 years ago, me, when I was in school, I learned that we were about 3.5 billion humans, you know? Today, we are more than double. It's a huge acceleration. In less than half a century, we've more than double our world population. And this is you and me in this room, yeah? Another aspect is inequalities. Some people are getting extremely wealthy to a point that I really don't know what they can do with their wealth, because they got so much of it they couldn't spend in 10 lifetimes, even if they were trying their best. And many others don't have enough. Do you have any idea what is the wealth repartition globally today? How much of the wealth, of the global wealth, have the 1% richest of us? Anybody has an idea? Give a wild guess. The response is not going to burn you. Or maybe it will a little bit. It's estimated to be between 40% and 50%. Do you know how much of the global wealth have the 60% poorest on this planet? It's estimated to be less than 5%. So imagine we humans were on a party. There's a big birthday party, and we have a big cake to share among all of us. There's enough for all. We are 100. But some guy somehow decide that it was about who was going to come first. And the one who comes first will have the right to help himself and to choose how much he takes from it. It takes about half of the cake. The 39 that come after, they take almost everything else. The 60 who are late, they got a little tiny part of the cake. Do they have enough? They don't. It's estimated today that 25,000 people are dying of hunger every day. Since I started this presentation, it's already a few hundred that died. On the other hand, amazingly, in other parts of the world, thousands are dying of obesity. So the estimation today is amazing. We have 25,000 of human beings like you and me who cannot feed themselves, who die, many of them children, and you have 7,000 who eat too much and die. It's by itself an image of this problem of wealth repartition. That's the first global challenge that we face, and it's a social challenge, and the main factor is inequalities. The second one is an economic challenge. Our financial system is based on debt. It means that to create money, we have to create debt. And when we create debt, we need to pay interest. Do you know? It's written in the back. So I don't need to ask you the question. But the global debt today is estimated to be at $250 trillion. USA has about 23 of them. My country has a bunch of them as well. Well, all countries obviously are in debt because, we create money out of debt and we need interest. That means also that in order to refund this debt, the economy needs to grow. Because if the economy does not grow, the debt cannot be refunded and the economic system collapses. We know that there are unequal economic development. So if you are born in one country that is well developed economically, like mine, you have far more chance, notably to travel in the world. If you don't, far less. And then a lot of the jobs that are provided by the economy are not enough for people to live decently. Most of the workers today in the world are paid with so low wages that they cannot afford a proper living. And in Indonesia, you know that very, very well. Yeah? To connect this with our reality, just look at how people who are creating the luxury villa that are plummeting all over the island are working. They wear clothes that are full of hole. They sleep in a place I don't even know how they can sleep there. So we have a lot of economic challenges as well. We're going to go to the next challenge. Geopolitical challenges. Who understands geopolitics? Okay, I'm going to explain you geopolitics. It's something I've discovered as well. I'm like, oh, what a wonderful world. Basically, all our countries are in competition with one another. You know, USA versus China, but also USA versus Europe, Indonesia versus Malaysia. Often, basically, it's like a viper nest. Is I protect my interest versus your interest, and vice versa. Yeah. So this is why sometimes there is scandals that come out, notably about the spying in the USA. You know, who knows Edward Snowden, for example? Who have heard of Edward Snowden? Nobody in the room has heard about Edward Snowden? I'm glad you came. Edward Snowden was an informatician working for the American Army. And he had access to the spying programs of America. And he realized that USA was spying everybody else, everywhere in the world, and collecting a lot of data about everyone, including their allies, in secret. And so that gentleman thought, I cannot keep silent because this is very dangerous. And so he spoke. You know what he had to do? He had to run away from the US for telling the truth. Imagine that we live. Geopolitics is such a nice subject that people who tell the truth have to hide because they will be persecuted. He had to move. Now he's in Russia and he cannot go back to the US because he's accused of treason, and if he goes back to the US, he will be persecuted. That's just to show how countries are nice between one another behind the diplomatical mask. So in a diplomacy, countries are very friendly, but in the back, not so much. And this is why every time there is secret information being whistled out, it creates a lot of scandal. Because what we realize is that it is very, very nasty. So what do we see by a planet where nationalism now is on the rise? There's more nationalist leaders than before. For example, Donald Trump in the US or Bolsonaro in Brazil. We live also in a world that is more interconnected than ever. It means that what is happening on the other side of the globe can impact you. What is happening in Brazil can impact you. What is happening in China can impact you. When I say you, I mean all of us. Yeah? That did not happen before, or we didn't see it. So it's a major change. There's more competition for resources. You know the tension that are happening now, notably with China, because of the sea. Yeah? So countries are arguing because they say, no, my territory is there, and somebody said, no, it's not there, it's there. And then there are arguments. Yeah? So all of this is raising today. And we know in history what happened when tension rise, if we don't slow them down. The latest, it happened before the First World War. Yeah. And the Second World War was a consequence of the First World War. So tension grows, and we don't find compromise, and tension builds up until it explodes into a violent conflict. So geopolitical challenges are one major challenges in the 21st century. Do you have any question before we move on? There are cultural challenges. Some of you may feel it because that concerns all of us. We live now in a world where we have so much access to information, more than ever. Our ancestors never had 1% of the access to information that we have, thanks to social media. And that's sometimes very confusing, right? Because we don't know what to believe anymore. So, well, one source of information is saying A, and one source of information is saying B, and actually the two of them are contradicting. No. If I watch Russia Today as a source of news, or I watch CNN, I have a completely different news source with contradicting information. It's very challenging for us to know what is true, what is not. On the other hand, and that's something that probably you're more used to in Indonesia, although it's taking up, we are now in an environment where there is no more homogeneous belief. You know, back in the days, we were living in a village where everybody believed the same thing. in countries where more or less everybody believed the same thing. Indonesia, probably a little bit different, but in my country it was like this. Yeah. And today, there's no more homogeneity in terms of culture. We are a cultural mix. And we have cultures that are coming that are very different. Nietzsche, a very famous philosopher, called it the era of comparison. It's like suddenly the distance between each other is reduced and we are facing one another with completely different cultures. So even by staying at home, we are facing what we call cultural shock. Anybody knows what is cultural shock? Yeah. Cultural shock is when you go in a place where people do not share the same culture and you got so confused that you lose your sense of identity. And this is very challenging. And I know some of you are dealing with this, just as I did. Yeah? Because we are not used to that. And then the last aspect of it is there's a dominant culture in the world today. And I'm sorry about this because it's the Western culture. Yeah? And the Western culture is very materialist, in a way almost superficial, and it's spreading all over the world. So now wherever you are, you're going to find McDonald's, Starbucks, etc. May sound very exciting in one way, but in another, what we see is a phenomenon of cultural erosion, which means people are losing their roots. Whether you're Balinese or belonging to another cultural heritage, you may feel that challenge. It's hard to keep your tradition when this modernity is coming and literally eroding them slowly but surely. This is another major challenge. Is how do we integrate with this new environment full of information and cultural diversity? Another major challenge. In France, I can guarantee that it's there. I don't know for Indonesia. Maybe you will tell me. It's a political challenge. These people now don't believe in politics anymore, for many of them. So we have a democracy, but people don't really believe in it anymore. Yeah. Why is that? Because people feel that governments are not serving their best interest. Anybody has heard about the Yellow Vest movement in France? No? Well, your media did not really inform you, but I can tell you that in France now is more than a year that people are taking in the street and asking for the government to be dismantled and for democracy to be given to the people through referendum, so that people can make their own law, dismiss their own law, dismiss the people that are in power if they feel that they don't do their job, and elect the people that they want in power anytime they want. It's been lasting for a year. It's not the government is holding with the police. So my country, I would say, because of this, is almost on the verge of a revolution today. And it's not only in France. You probably have heard of the demonstration in Iran, in Lebanon, in Egypt, in Chile, and many other countries I don't have all in mind, but it's happening a bit all over the world. Why is this due? Because people have lost faith in politics. And why they've lost faith in politics? Because they see that generally politicians seem more interested to protect financial or corporate interests than they seem to care about their people. Yeah? And the last one is that we do not have transparency within our political system. To me, it's my point of view. You have the right to disagree. But for a democracy to work, we need to have transparency. I want to know what's happening behind closed doors. I want to know what my president is talking about when he meets these big businessmen or other foreign countries. But everything is secret. makes me question. I'm not blaming, but I'm saying, well, if you're working for the people, then why do you need to hide? You know, if you're really protecting our interests, then you shouldn't be hiding. In case, you should just show what you do. But what I see, they just show a tiny percentage of what they do, and all the rest is secret. And it's so secret that if it's being revealed, people are going to be prosecuted and sent to jail. Yeah. So that's another major challenge, is almost like a potential failure of democracy. There are many challenges, huh? How are we going to do that? Oh, we'll see that later. Another challenge is the technological challenge. Today, many people are losing their jobs because machines outperform them. Yeah? So in my country, for example, now we have supermarkets with almost no workers. It's just machines. So, oh, it will be great. The problem is that people need a job to get a wage, otherwise they can't pay their bills. On the other hand, we start to develop now artificial intelligence. And obviously we are good at it. So good that the artificial intelligence is becoming more performant than our intelligence. Our intelligence is becoming obsolete. Say, wonderful, soon we will be replaced by machines. But what will we do? Yeah. And last, I'm going to connect the dots. We were talking about inequalities, and how 1% of the world population has the biggest share of the cake. Guess who is having this technology? The most powerful and wealthy people. Guess who needs the technology? The poorest one. So we hope that this technology will be used for all humanity and not only private interest. But by experience, we've seen that it's not what's happening. So technology is bringing a new challenge. There's one challenge that we've not covered yet. And probably the biggest one. I'm sorry, you might have felt like, I hope it's over soon. No. Who wants to guess which one is it? I know you know. Which challenge did we not cover yet? It's coming anywhere. You're not going to escape it. Huh? Coronavirus? It's a big flu. It's okay. I will say, compared to the other, it's okay. Bon, it's a big flu. I think we're going to manage. Don't worry too much. Yeah. For the coronavirus, it's a good one. It's a good example because we tend to be like really scared of little things and we forget the big things. So coronavirus, yeah, they've looked at it and for now, it's not as dangerous as it seems. Unless it will mutate. Of course, it's spectacular because it's something new and we've never seen it before. But obviously, the mortality rate is low and it should be under control. So don't worry too much. You should be fine. Yeah? So which one is it? The media don't always talk about the biggest challenge. So don't think about the media to get the response. Think about what you know, deep inside. All right. Yes? Yo. Yes. Yes, the ecological challenge. See, we are going to study that one. That one is a big one. We'll speak a little bit more about it because it's very important to understand it. Because that one is unforgiving. Yeah, we cannot get that one wrong. I'll show you why. First of all, let's go back to the basis to understand the ecological challenge. You and me all belong to this planet. Yeah? The air that we breathe in this room is Earth that provides us. The drink in my bottle is Earth that provides us. The food that you eat before, that you're going to eat later, is Earth who provides it. Without this, I die. Without this, you die. Earth is the condition for us human beings to be alive. So if you thought that sustainability and ecology was just, a hippie fashion, that might not be the case. Taking care of our planet, taking care of ourselves, is the same. If you don't take care of your planet, it's like if we don't take care of our bodies. It's bad. It stinks. It's unhealthy. Are we being sustainably? Are we being sustainable today on this planet? No? What does that mean, not being sustainable? Yeah, not thinking about the environment. But what is the consequences of not being sustainable? Anybody has an idea? Not thinking about the future. The future, all right. Being unsustainable is about the future. I'm going to give you the definition of the word unsustainable. What is unsustainable is what cannot be maintained. It's what cannot be defended. It's something that is self-destructive. Yeah. So sustainability is not about fashion and looking cool in social media. It's about having a future on this planet. And so to understand this problem of sustainability, what I invite you to do with me today, again, is to look at the big picture. Are we ready? We're going to survive that? Before we do so. So if you feel a little bit of anxiety and heaviness, it is normal. It's a good sign. It means that you are normal. Yeah? If you don't, I'm like, what are you listening? Yeah? So do not worry about your emotions. It's normal. Yeah? Intuitively, we know that when something needs to be changed, our emotions come and say, hey, there's something we need to pay attention to and it requires change. Yeah? So if you feel some intuition, no. If you feel some emotion and some heaviness, it means that you're reacting as normal human beings. So welcome to the club. Yeah? Nothing to worry about. It's normal. The situation here is a little bit to worry about, but let's not panic. Let's try to understand what's going on. Yeah? Because once we understand something, we can fix it. True or not? Yeah? Before we go, I'm going to tell you just one thing. Something I learned in my corporate career. And I was damn good at it. It's to fix a problem, we need to go at the roots of the problem. Yeah? So most of my colleagues I saw, they were doing what I call symptom treatment. There was a problem, we're like, okay, we need to address this problem, but they never thought, what created the problem? Yeah? And me, what I realized and what made me really good at my corporate career is that once you identify the origin of the problem, you can fix it. So I became an expert consultant in system and organization. Yeah. So thanks to this ability. And I found there was always three types of problems. There were either human problems. It's mean that the person doesn't have the skills or the personality for the job. There was tool problems. We were not equipped with the right tools to do the job. Or there was organization problem. We were not structured properly. Yeah. Just to say that the solution to these global problems is to understand the roots, and this is what I'm also sharing today. Yeah? So do not, what's important is you try to come from a position of understanding, because then you will see it opens a lot of potential. Ready? All right, let's dive. Now, first, to understand unsustainability, it's very important to understand how this planet that gives us life functions. Why does it give us life? It provides the resources that we need, and it regenerates them. It can absorb what we reject to keep the environment proper for life to continue. It can also repair, just like your body does, the damages that we deal. You know, it's like when we hurt ourselves, our skin repairs itself, hers just does the same. Yeah? And that's what we call the biocapacity of the planet. We are, by the way, diving into environmental science now. Yeah? So for us, what's important to understand is that Earth behaves like a living being. Yeah? It can accept us, and it can deal with what we reject, it can repair what we damage, and it can regenerate what we consume. To a certain degree, because it's not an infinite planet. It's limited. What I mean by it's limited is that our world population can double. The size of the planet does not double. You see where I'm going? I'm going toward humanity's impact on the planet, what we call humanity's ecological footprint. So what is humanity's ecological footprint? It's the amount of resources that we extract from our planet. It's the amount of pollution that we reject on the planet. And it's the amount of damages that we deal to the planet ecosystem. So I will ask you now, just for you to connect this with, because this is very theoretical knowledge, with our reality. What are some of the resources that we extract on our planet today that you can think of? And there are many, of course, because all of this is resource of the planet transformed. What are some that you can think of?
Oil.
Oil, one of them, big one. Any other one? Coal? Yeah? What happens when we go and we dig oil or coal? So we take the resources, we reject pollution, and we damage the ecosystem. Plastic is a result, is a transformation of fuel. We extract, we transform, we use, we throw. There is extraction, damage to the ecosystem, and rejection. So when does the problem happen? The problem happens when the ecological footprint of all humanity, me, you, and all of us, overshoot the biocapacity of the planet. In other words, to understand simply, we take more than what the planet can regenerate sustainably. We extract more resources than what the planet can regenerate sustainably. We reject more pollution than what our planet can absorb. And we damage the ecosystem faster than the planet can repair. That is unsustainable. It's not rocket science. Absolutely not rocket science. A 5-year-old can understand that if you take the time to explain him quite fast. But we, as a species, seems to have missed it. So today, it's estimated that to be sustainable at this stage, our planet should be 1.75 bigger than what it is. But it's not. What's happening? Do you have any idea of the consequences of overshooting our planet biocapacity? Okay, not yet. That's the future if we continue to do it. Maybe not the instinct of human, but at least a collapse of our global economy and therefore of our civilization, and that's not a funny ride. Yeah? That means mass migration, famines, epidemics, conflicts. We don't want to go there. I hope so. Yeah? Because I don't want to go there personally. Yeah. What are the consequences now? Not in the future, now. Let's go back to the here and now. What's happening now on our globe at the ecological level? Okay, so not yet, but indeed there is more pressure on resources. So for example, we see that with fishes a lot because we are overfishing them. So many fish start missing, and that's why there is a lot of conflict for, to whom belong the sea, because fishermen, they are looking for new sources. Yeah. So that will be extinction of species. What else? Climate change. Yeah, some people believe it doesn't exist, but I've seen it. Yeah. When I was a kid, every winter I had snow. Finish. The glacier, they melted also. And I can understand when I see everything that we reject all the time, I'm like, yeah, well, it must have some consequence, of course. It's not only people dying in city because they are intoxicated, it's also the environment that's changing. What else? We're going to see them all. Not all, but we're going to categorize them. Plastic pollution is one of them. It's very common in Bali. Everybody talk about it. Why do we talk about it? Because it's right in front of our eyes. And it's bad for the economy. Because tourists will not come to the island anymore. Yeah. So that's a symptom also. We're going to look at this. All right. So these are the major symptoms of us being unsustainable at this stage. So what do we see? There's overconsumption of resources, yeah? And overconsumption of resources, yes, some resources may run out. But there's also ecosystem destruction. So to give you some scientific studies, what the scientists say about it, and they keep raising the alarm, but nobody listens. Because economists have a louder voice today. But basically, it's estimated that 75% of the surface ecosystem are either very damaged or destroyed. So 75%, it's quite a performance. It's 3/4 of the surface of the globe. Pollution. So today, it's estimated that 95% of the world population is breathing a air that's not safe anymore. Only 5% have access to fresh air. Yeah. So it depends where you live. If you're in Jakarta, it's worse. Some other parts is better. So it's becoming to a point that now it's amazing. We see even people are starting to sell bottle of fresh air from Iceland or to cities that are very polluted. So for $15, you can have your fresh air. Amazing. The sixth mass extinction is a very big one. So obviously we are destroying a big part of wildlife. And one symptom that you may have noticed here, it's the disappearance, of the insects that make the light at night. Yeah? They used to be everywhere before, they're gone. Yeah, we don't see them anymore. But basically it's estimated that it's about 60% of wildlife that has disappeared in less than 50 years. So it's what people call an ecocide. We have genocide, and we also have ecocide when we destroy our natural environment. And the last one is climate change. So today there's about already hundreds of millions, almost billions of people who are affected by it. And according to the scientists, it's only the beginning. We are on for a ride. Why am I sharing all of this to you? Do you think? To make you depressed? Obviously, we need to know, huh? Unless we prefer to sleepwalk. But I personally have faith in us, and I think that if we know the problem and we understand it, we will take the right measure. But the problem is that, as far as I can see, we tend to look the other way because it's very scary. And as we look the other way, we don't deal with the problem, and it's becoming more scary, so we look the other way, and we are stuck in the vicious circle. Yeah. We are not facing it. So I'm sharing this because I have deep faith in human ability to overcome this challenge. Humanity is something amazing. With the use of our brain, we've overcome all, until now. Now, the biggest challenge that we face is obviously ourselves. Yeah? We've dominated the natural environment, we've made it, and now we have to face ourselves, or else we may self-terminate out of intelligence. We become too powerful and we did not control our power, and we blasted ourselves. So this, I don't think it's going to happen because we are smart, and when we understand something, we know intuitively what to do. So we're going to try now to understand what's going on, what is happening to us that our intelligence is endangering our future on this planet. It's not supposed to be this way. Why are we overshooting the biocapacity of the planet? Why are we not being sustainable? Why is this happening? Anybody want to give a response, by the way, to this question?
Because people are greedy.
Greed.
Yay.
A big one. But why are we being greedy if it's dangerous for our survival?
I think it's human nature.
Human nature. So our nature is to be self-destructive? We are programmed to destroy ourselves?
According to one theory.
According to one theory. Okay, that's one theory. A very self-destructive theory because it gives us no chance. Aside from technology, maybe it's like, okay, we are very unconscious and ignorant, but maybe technology will save us from that. Why else? No, it's very interesting because to respond to this question, we need to understand what's creating greed. Again, it's back to the roots of the problem. What's behind greed? That's where we enter into another subject, psychology. But before we go there, we're going to take a little step back. We're going to rewind in time, and as we did now, and by the way, what I'm sharing is a new way of thinking. Huh? It's pretty cool. You guys, if you get that, you're going to be pioneers, because people don't think like that. But trust me, it helps. So we're going to take a big step back. We're going to look at first where we come from as a species. Let's look at history, what history has to tell us. And you may have some different version, that's fine. Yeah. According to scientific version, and if you disagree with that one, it's fine. But it helps to understand. I guarantee you, it makes a lot of sense. We human beings are quite new on this planet. Yeah? The planet according to science, has been created among 4.5 billion years ago. That's a long, long time. And we humans popped out about 1.5 million years ago as Homo erectus, a process of evolution from very primitive forms of life to more sophisticated ones. Homo erectus evolved. After more than 1 million years, he became Homo sapiens. What is Homo sapiens? It's an animal that starts to use his intelligence to dominate its environment and to survive. See, many animals, they've developed, like lions, they don't use their intelligence, they use their power. Antelopes, they use their speed. But humans, we use our intelligence. That's why we call ourselves Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens stands for wise man. I don't know where we got the wise from, but that's how we named ourselves, probably by lack of wisdom, because we are not very wise, obviously. So we arrived. I'm going to stand up for this one. And can you see clearly, by the way? Is that right? So we arrived here. Yeah. That's sapiens. By the way, we have to multiply by 100 because otherwise you would not see us. So we just arrived like a second ago. Sapiens. And that's sapiens summed. So for more than 150,000 years, we've been hunter-gatherers. Took us that long to start to settle ourselves and develop agriculture. Then we moved into the Iron Age. We started to use metal, etc. And little by little, we get more knowledge and we learn to use our environment better, etc. And that brings us to the Industrial Revolution. That's considered about 250 years old. A big revolution, because we start to be able to create things much more faster than before. We start to have more comfort, to have more abundance. But what we've known most is survival. Because during this time, we were in the wild, yeah? Our ancestors did not have all of this. They were in the wild. Is the wild safe? No. Right? It's not. Yeah? Our ancestors, they had to deal with predators, they had to deal with illnesses, they had to deal with animals that are equipped to kill them. So they had to learn to dominate their environment, to control it. Yeah. And they did well, because we succeed, obviously. A second challenge that we had to face is resources. Was there always plentiful resources before? I can tell you that in my country, in my region, in Europe, no, there wasn't. There's been situation of scarcity, not having enough, famines, etc. So we had to learn to protect and accumulate resources. And then the last one is, can any of you survive alone? We can't, right? If you're rejected from the group, it's over. So we also had to learn to be accepted. We had to learn to function as a community and to not be rejected in this community. And so our ancestors have learned to dominate their environment, to accumulate resources, and to fit within the cultural norm in which they are. Does that make sense? Yeah. We are talking about hundreds of years of evolution. So this is what you probably call human nature. Yeah? But it must be seen as an heritage. It's our heritage from the past. Is it clear? Yeah. Do you connect a little bit the dots between this and unsustainability? I'm going to help you to do that because it's really important. What I want is not for you to see every subject as separated and suddenly you're like, why are we going there? But you understand what's going on. Just gonna, because it's a good spot to do it. What do you see in our society today? Are we collaborating or are we competing? Competing. So what do we want? To dominate our environment. Yeah? It's not the natural environment that's becoming threatening for us, it's the human environment. Yeah? So we want to compete, to dominate and have control. Are we always trying to have more? Yes, always is never enough. Yeah? That's what we call greed. I never have enough. What you see is that, we come from an heritage where we had to worry about not having enough. So I can understand that we've learned that, yeah? And that we never know because there could be something in the future. So for my safety, the more I have, the more I feel safe. Do we all want to feel safe? Yeah, right? Survival is the first priority, right? And so we also want to be accepted by others. So we follow trends. Am I wrong? Yeah? How many of you bought a phone not because you really wanted, but because your friends were telling you that if you don't have it, you're not going to look that cool? If it's not a phone, it's a car or it's something else. Yeah? So we follow trend because we want to be accepted. We are very afraid of being rejected. Yeah? Probably this fear is the reason why when I ask some questions, sometimes people have problems to respond. Yeah? Because we're afraid that, if I say that, people are going to think I'm crazy. Yeah? So when we say that we are overshooting the biocapacity of the planet, of course, we never have enough. And we are growing in number. We behave like cancer cells at this moment. Multiplying, growing, multiplying, and wanting always more. This cannot be sustainable on our finite planet, right? So this heritage from the past that has allowed us to survive until now is now becoming dangerous for our future. You get it? It's like before we needed that to survive, and now these behaviors are becoming destructive. Connect the dots? Yeah? And because there is competition, as you said, but there are inequalities. Yeah? Because some people are greedy, but they say, okay, I'm going to create money, but I want you to give me more. I'm going to make it in debt, and I'm going to put interest, so I have more. So, everything is interdependent and interconnected, and everything brings us back to our past as hunter-gatherers who had to dominate their environment, who had to accumulate resources to survive, and who had to fit to the norm to not be rejected. Do you understand that? It's very important to understand, so we can understand where is this coming from. This human nature that is so self-destructive. So what happened that really changed the game? Has anybody heard about the Anthropocene? You never heard about the Anthropocene? Well, that's a major problem. Because this is a complete game changer. So the Anthropocene, so this is really important because you see, you don't know, and I didn't know before I studied also. And if we don't know that, it's very hard to have a solution to the global challenges. Because we don't yet understand what's going on. I'm going to show you why the Anthropocene is a game changer. The Anthropocene started, it's estimated, about 250 years ago, after the Industrial Revolution. What changed after the Industrial Revolution? Do you have any idea? Were we able to dominate more thanks to the Industrial Revolution? Yes. That's why some countries went much faster than others and, by the way, colonized them. Yeah. Were we able to produce more resources? Yes, far more. And did this new condition give us a space to be more free? Yes, it did. So the big shift that we see is that suddenly the environment that was dominating us, we started to dominate it. Suddenly we started to replace scarcity with abundance. And suddenly we started to have more safe space to be ourselves. Yet, our human nature is still deep-rooted inside of us. And so we moved to a new paradigm where we do not have to fight to survive. We do not have to compulsively accumulate more resources. We do not have to follow blindly the culture, but we still do it because we're so afraid. We don't know how to live in other way. Do you understand that? It's deep inside of us. It's almost like in our DNA, in our cells, etc. Yeah, because this is how we survive. And so what happened is that we moved in the Anthropocene, but we did not notice it. And we still behave as if we were not inside. To give you an idea of what the Anthropocene looks like, and it's amazing. Why do we say that our world is in transformation? Yeah? Because it's changing faster than ever before. And I'll show you how this. I don't know if you can see clearly, and I hope you can. Might be a little bit small for you. What you see here is about 100,000 years of evolution. We humans moved from having spears to having better spears. In 100,000 of years, progress was very, very, very little. 3,500 years later, 3,500 years. We still have spears, but they are definitely much better. And now we start to have, like equipped with metal helmets, etc. That's 3,000 years of evolution. And 2,000 years later, what is still the same, just a little bit better. Yeah? So we moved in hundreds of thousands of years, very little. Yeah? Our progress was so slow. And our increase of population was so slow too. That's before the Anthropocene. Why? Well, for example, we couldn't write. If you cannot write, how do you teach? You need to remember everything. So our level of knowledge was very poor. Somebody mentioned ignorance as a problem. But yeah, back in the days, we had very little access to knowledge. Yeah. And when we move in the Anthropocene, it's a complete game changer. I mean, that's the first planes. Some people were crazy enough to believe that we can fly. They really say you're crazy. And indeed they were, because many died trying to fly. But ultimately they succeed. Look, in 100 years, what we got? No joke. We even can walk to the moon. That's the Anthropocene. Things get much faster. We are talking about a great acceleration where all the curves are going exponential, and we are in the middle of it. Today we have even more access to information than ever. Mobile phones, we all use them, but I mean, when I was a kid, I had to call my friends at home. Hey, is Paul at home? Can I talk to him? We didn't have mobile phones. We are making appointments. If someone is not at the appointment, no way to contact him. If it's outside, say, okay, well, he's not here. This has completely revolutionized our world. What I'm sharing, I could not share it if I didn't have access to internet to tap into all this knowledge as well. Yeah? We are living a revolution outside of us because of technological progress, but also inside of us. Because of all these questions that are popping out. That's the Anthropocene. And that's a huge game changer. Right? Okay. And what's happening to us? Yeah, we moved into this new era, but everything functions as in the past. We dominate the surface of the globe, but we are still competing. It's what I was saying before, but I repeat it because it's really important. It's like as if we are in one time, but we are behaving. We are in the present, which is a different reality, but we are behaving as in the old reality because we carry this heritage. Our society is based on that. Competition for power, and power, well, there's big progress, because, for example, how were we solving conflicts back in the days? When a tribe was against another tribe, generally, what will happen? War. There will be a lot of blood, yeah? A lot of people died. Today, conflict, generally, it's like, okay, let's do business. Yeah? If you're not happy with me, it's fine, because if I can pay you, you will agree. Yeah, it's a super weapon. To invade you, I just need money. Yeah? If tomorrow I want an army, give me $1 million. Tomorrow you all work for me. Right? Well, if I give you a good salary, of course, but I can with $1 million. So you see, like, we are still competing for position of power, but the weapon has changed, now it's money. And of course, we always want more. Power, resources, acceptation. The more I have money, the more people think I'm cool. The more they look up at me, why would I stop? Yeah? And then, if you don't follow, there are chances that you're going to be marginalized. Huh? If you don't follow the trend, sometimes people do not necessarily accept it. So we are in this new era, but we're still behaving like in the old days, just with different tools. And that's what creates unsustainability. Yeah? So what I'm saying here is that for us to become sustainable, we need to understand that we already are in the Anthropocene and that maybe we need less competition, more collaboration, less accumulation of resources, more sharing resources, less conforming, more being ourselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. And of course, it's very important to look at the systemic cause of sustainability. The Western economy, it's coming from Europe, because Europe has invaded the US and Australia. But yeah, it's very materialist. Yeah? It's how do you look is more important than who you are. So it's really promoting behavior that are deep-rooted in greed. I have to say that to call it human nature is a very good excuse to not change our behavior. Yeah? Oh no, it's not me, it's human nature. Our human nature was not to wash our hands, but then one day we discovered that there were bacteria and that it was dangerous not to wash our hands, and we started to do it. So human nature is evolutive, yeah? And then if we look at the principles of our economy, it's a competition for short-term profits. Unlimited accumulation of capital and infinite growth. I was there. In my corporate career, we just have one objective. Make more money this month than the previous month, more money this year than the previous year. And very often, we had to compromise with our values. So the company that I quit, for example, today, now, is having an issue because it was supposed to be very luxury, etc. They conquer the market, but no, to grow, but they need to stop being luxurious and they need to start to be cheap. So they are losing their identity. But that's what's happening all the time. It's like when you want to grow, but yeah, where does it stop? And that economy that we have doesn't know the stop button. It's like, no, you need to grow because if you don't grow, you die. Will we die if we stop to grow? Yes? You think we die if we stop to grow? That's interesting. Why? What's going to kill us? That's an interesting belief. So I'm going to give you an example. When we are babies and children, we need to grow because we are very vulnerable. But when we become adults, we don't need to grow anymore. Yeah? If we keep growing, we start to have body dysfunction because it's not supposed to grow. Yeah? So the way I see it, is I know we are not going to die if we stop to grow. I mean, we can grow differently, sustainably. Yeah? But we don't need to grow to extract always more resources. We don't need to have always more material possessions. Yeah? So no, we may reinvent our ways of growing. Yeah? And then on top of that, the problem that we have with our global economy is that our need for growth is compulsive. You hear the economists like, the growth is going down. We are not the financial system, etc. See, but dude, it's a contract. I mean, the financial debt, it's a contract, it's a piece of paper. So today we live a very funny era because on one side we have scientists to say, whoa, you need to chill out. Guys, you need to slow down. You are overshooting the biocapacity of the planet. You're overconsuming the resources. And the volume is really low. But we hear the governments and the economists who say, no, we need growth. It's really amazing. I'm like, wow. It looks like it reminds me of me in my career. Yeah? On one side, I'm like, I need to get the target. And on the other side, I'm like, but what we do is crazy. Yeah? And so we are suffering from what I would call a cognitive dissonance. Everybody know what is a cognitive dissonance? It's the discomfort that we feel when we are confronted with two opposing reality and we don't know what to make of it. So in that case, one reality is that we need to grow to maintain the economy because otherwise what's going to happen? And on the other side is we need to slow down because otherwise we will destroy the surface of the globe, aka ourselves. And we are with this conflicting reality and we don't know what to do. And so for now, the choice that we've made is obviously like, okay, we're just not going to think about the environment. We're going to focus on the economy. We're going to do a few adjustments and it's going to work. But it's not working. Like, scientists have been warning us about the danger since decades. And they've never been listened. And now, it starts to be really, really bad because we know that if we don't stop that now, we are going to be next. Soon. At least our civilization. So, alors, if you can read that, please, tell me where you got your superpower. Sorry about that. So what we want to show here is how everything is interdependent and interconnected. I'm going to try to, we'll make a better one next time. Because what I observe is that very often we human beings, when we try to address these issues, we address them separated. It's like, there's plastic. Okay, let's address plastic. There's deforestation. Some people are working on deforestation. There's the extinction of orangutan. Okay, let's try to protect the orangutan. But there is poverty. Okay, let's try to address poverty. Ocean pollution. And so we got all these symptoms, all these alarms, and we are trying to address them. But do you think it's possible to address the ecological emergency if we don't solve poverty, for example? Is it possible? Out of your intuition, can we? I'll explain you why. It's not. You know what one of the biggest fears I had to face to quit my corporate career? You don't know? It's to become poor. Because damn, I was making a good lot of money. And I was like, but if I don't get my salary, how am I going to pay my bill? How am I going to pay my bill? And so a lot of people are doing activities that are really destructive, but they are so afraid of the consequences of stopping that they cannot do it. Why? Because we live in a world where if you don't make money, you're poor and nobody is going to help you. Yeah? So when we see people in poverty, we get afraid. And when we get afraid, we say, no, I need to think about me and accumulate as much resources as possible because look at these poor people. Yeah? Another principle of interdependence and interconnection is, for example, between climate change and migration. So, for example, now in my country, in Europe, there is people from the far right who are saying the problem is not climate change, it's immigration. I'm like, brain, man, you're missing a brain connection. Because you are not seeing that climate change creates mass migration. Because when people cannot find water or cannot find food because the land has become dry, they migrate. Yeah? For the same reason why we are constantly in need for growth globally and in competition with one another. We don't have time to think about the big picture. We have a very short-term vision. And so we are not addressing the problems as we should. To address this problem, we will need to take a step back, think about what's going on, and reorganize ourselves in ways that are sustainable. But we cannot do that because we are all in competition with one another, and the one who stops is likely to be overtaken by the one who are not stopping. Yeah? So all these problems cannot be seen as separated. If we see them as separated, all we can do is what we are doing now, which is symptom treatment. So we try to reduce plastic here, and we try to recycle there. But in the meantime, while we are doing so, there is a World Cup in Qatar with aircon stadiums, with tens of thousands of people flying in the sky with a huge ecological footprint. What's the point? We need to reconsider our priorities. Okay, got news that I get to speed up. So do you understand what's really important is that you understand that all of these problems, they have one root cause, is us. Yeah? And the way we function, the way our society is organized. Who created society? Us. It's our tool. So we must be courageous to say that if the tool is working for everyone is good, if it's not working well, we need to change it. We should not be afraid of that. And to avoid conflicts when we do so, then we need to talk. We need to understand each other. Do we understand each other today? Yeah? Yeah? We understand, no, that there is a need for collaboration, that there is a need to think about what we are doing. And out of this thinking, a lot of new response can come that we never thought about before. That one is a big one, and if you can understand this one, you are champions. If you can understand that, you almost understand everything. So really try to understand. It's new, but we apply this, and it really gives us like a lot of understanding on the world we live. Yeah. There's psychology, sociology, anthropology, a little bit of consciousness, which is more on the spiritual aspect. But I don't want to develop. I want to stay down to earth, really grounded, logical, factual. Yeah? What do you read here? Collective traumas. What are traumas, do you know? Yeah, previous events that have traumatized us. And so, according to psychologists and to my observation, I can confirm that, is that traumas are transmitted generation after generation. So me, during my journey of unpeeling myself and understanding what's happening, I found myself healing traumas from my grandmother that I had received. Because my grandmother, for example, was deeply traumatized by the Second World War. She had been one of these kids that was on the road, running away from the German at 4 or 5 years old, and she felt so scared. And her parents felt so scared, and they didn't know what was going to happen to them, and they didn't have food. Yeah. So she grew with this fear that there was not enough, and that you had to fight. And she transmitted that to my mother. My grandfather was also at war in Algeria. And so they were really tough with my mother. And my mother was deeply traumatized by a very tough education. And the way she educated me was also full of trauma, which I got myself. And then if we look at the Second World War, it's a result of the trauma from the First World War. And the First World War is a result of the trauma from all the previous wars that happened before. So we are carrying as an heritage the traumas from our ancestors that are being passed on as a package, generation after generation. These traumas connect to fear that mostly are being repressed. All of this, what I'm saying about, is mostly unconscious. Because you know, this stuff that we don't want to see deep inside, try to run away from. So it's unconscious. So we are not conscious about it, but it's working on the inside. To give you an idea, today, psychologists estimate that 95% of our choices and action are coming from the unconscious. So it's not a small thing. And what we find in the unconscious is notably these traumas. What else do we find? Those fears. Those fears of not having enough, those fears of not being enough, those fears of being attacked. That's why we are afraid to speak. Yeah? Is it rational to be afraid to speak? No. Even me, to be able to speak to you in public like this, I had to overcome a lot of fear. It's like as if you were going to kill me if I say something wrong. It's like, wow. Yeah, because for a long time, our ancestors were killed if they were challenging the dominant culture or authorities. Yeah? And then what do we have on top of that is belief, conscious or unconscious, about the world, about ourselves. I'm going to give you one example. If I'm carrying a lot of trauma because, for example, I have an heritage out of war, and that heritage told me that the world is dangerous, that human beings are bad, right? They are bad. They've killed each other. I carry that in my cellular memory. I'm going to have a fear of other people, unconscious or not. And I'm going to try to dominate all the time to control that fear. Right? Because the more I dominate, the more I feel safe. I could talk about Donald Trump right now, by the way. Huh? Yeah. And this is suppressed by beliefs back that, human beings are bad, so they need to be dominated. They need to be controlled. And so on that, we have a society. If you look at it, our fear of being dominated, for example, by other tribes, today our society integrates that with nations. Okay, don't worry, we have an army, we have borders, and we are going to defend our resources and our culture and our people. What you have behind? The fear of aggression, the belief that human beings are bad and that you need to protect themselves, to protect yourself. The fear of not having enough, it's capitalism. Huh? Do business and always get more, and you will have enough. Yeah? I'm not saying you communism. It's the same. It's the same fear. Yeah? So all our society is established on this fear, on this trauma, on these beliefs, and on these unconscious processes. And it dominates us. It's way over our head, right? Which means that we are not in a conscious society that evolved with the time. We are in an unconscious society which is established on trauma, fear, and beliefs. Do you understand that? Yeah. And that triggers behaviors. So I'm going to be competitive. I'm going to be ruthless. I'm going to try to have always more. And I'm going to not be myself to be accepted by others. And so all these behaviors create the reality that we know, with inequalities, conflicts, ecosystem destructions, etc., etc. And what does it do? It perpetuates the traumas. It's a self-perpetuating process. Because if I believe that humans are, if we all believe that we are bad, then we are all acting selfishly, right? We don't trust each other. We are nasty to each other. And then what happens? We get the confirmation that we are bad. It's a self-perpetuating process. Coming from our past, which is mostly stored in our unconscious. Good news or bad news? So, huh? What do you think? Good news or bad news? Well, I tell you, it's good news. Because we can work on that. We can bring our unconscious to consciousness and we can reprogram it. We can change. What it needs is awareness. Okay? So for me, it's goddamn good news. Because we can choose a completely different history, a completely different fate than the one that is decided by our so-called human nature, at least according to our researchers. But trust me, we see that every day. Alors, how do we overcome this? First of all, if we don't understand what's happening, if we don't understand the problem, its roots, its origins, it's going to be very unlikely. What we see today is that we are looking for solutions outside of us to fix a problem that's inside of us. It's not going to work. Huh? We can tomorrow have all vehicles with solar panel, but with a vehicle with solar panel, you can cut the Amazonian forest. Huh? Doesn't make a difference. So we have to stop thinking that we always need more, for example. So you have to understand why we do that. Yeah. So how do we change this? We help each other to raise our level of collective consciousness and intelligence. We learn to heal from our traumas. We learn to accept ourselves as we are. It's a big challenge because we have never done that, but it's a very good one. Because we may discover that we are much better than what we thought. At first, we may have to discover that we are not as good as what we thought. That's what's scary. But ultimately, when we accept our weakness, we can find new strength. Yeah. This competitive environment is not convenient. For that, we need to always be strong in the competitive environment. No? We cannot be weak. We are human beings. We are strength and weakness. So we have to allow ourselves to be weak sometimes also, to be really strong. And one of the major changes is that in a system which is built on competition, what do we prioritize? What we share in common or what divides us? What divides us? Yeah, is what is going to be my competitive advantage versus you. But maybe we have to learn to prioritize what we share in common first. For example, coming next. Surprise. So how do we become part of the solution? Again, to go a little bit deeper. It's first is to understand that if we are all part of the problem, we are all part of the solution. Who in this room believes that she or he can make a difference? It's very important, thank you. And if you don't yet, it's fine. But I can guarantee you something, you know the self-realizing belief? If you believe that you cannot make a difference, you won't make any. You know why? Any idea why? Will you try to do something if you know that you cannot succeed? Or if you believe that you cannot succeed? You won't, right? So if I believe I cannot change anything, I don't change anything. And then the reality confirms that I cannot change anything. I'm right. Except that I just didn't try. Yeah? So I had also to overcome this fear when I quit my corporate career. I said, but do you think I change things? Yeah, I do. A lot. A lot. Of course. And I don't know how far it goes, but I know what I do has an impact. Even if I cannot see it, I know it has. And it's enough for me. Yeah. So a lot goes to, we were talking about the inherited belief, fear, and traumas. But guess what we need to do? It's also question our belief, whether they are conscious or unconscious. Look at our fear. What am I really afraid of? If I want to change, what fear comes out? And not be, just look at it. And to look at what kind of traumas are behind. Yeah. So today we live in a world where there's much more tools for us to be able to bring our unconsciousness to consciousness. That's the good news. And in Bali, there's many of them as well. Yeah. A big key is acceptance. If we don't accept reality, we fight reality, and that's not productive. We reject ourselves as well. Yeah? So it's really about accepting ourselves as we are. Yeah? So no shame, no blame, no judgment against you or other people, because we all have this traumatic heritage. Does it help you to have compassion, to know that there is this traumatic heritage behind us? Yes, right? Because we are not that bad, we're just probably traumatized. Yeah? All deeply wounded one way or the other and trying to run away from it because we got to compete. We cannot show that we are wounded. Yeah. And then what you can do is join groups that are working on this type of subjects, that are questioning, that are working on their self-development and on making a difference. Like our group or like other groups, it doesn't matter. Yeah? But there are many groups today who are coming and understand the need to make a difference all over the globe. Yeah, Greta Thunberg is one example, but it's not necessarily your call. Maybe you have another call, and it's your call that's important. There's something I wanted to show you. I don't know where it is. Wait a minute. Yeah, okay. All right, we'll go back on the other one. What's the key about the stuff that we share in common? They prioritize what we share in common. What do we share in common? We are all different, right? I know there is stuff we share in common. First of all, is the planet, right? What some people call Mother Earth, what feeds us, what keeps us alive, is something we share in common. No matter which country we are from. So one of the big lessons for us to learn is that maybe the planet we share in common is more important than the countries dividing us. Yeah? So when we think national interest, etc., we don't care, we got to keep growing because, it's competition, maybe we should start stopping to feed this kind of beliefs because they are very destructive. Another one is, I know we need money to survive, but, should we really lose our humanity because of that? Is it normal that, we have people who are dying on the side of the road and we pass by with big cars and we just don't pay attention? Is money become so important that it's more important than humanity? We have to question that as well. Yeah? Yeah? And questioning our relationship to money is also questioning our relationship to success. Am I successful because I deserve it or simply because I grow in conditions that really help me to access success? Yeah? So maybe humanity is more important than money, and then we can find ways to have a healthy relationship with money. Not the unhealthy one that we have today. And then the last one is we all have different beliefs, and I respect that, But we share a reality together, and that should be prioritized. Yeah. How does that make a difference? We are really finishing. You know, when our beliefs are more important than reality, for example, but we don't see ourselves as humans. For example, I will see you as Muslim, and I will see you maybe as something else, and then I forget that you're a human being just like me. That's just your belief, and that's fine. But that behind that, there is a reality, and that's the world we share, right? And we can share it together, even if we are different. It's not so important, right? Yeah? So that's really important. And you see, we haven't got that yet. We're still like fighting over, no, hey, all human beings, chill out. Like, it's all right, you know? Panchasila, unity in diversity, okay, you know, let's allow ourselves to be different. It's a big one, this, because if we start to nurture these values, we change completely. Huh? Our society is built on the other way. Huh? So belief more important than reality, money more important than humanity, countries more important than the planet. Yeah, what kind of result do we manifest with such culture? Of course, it's not sustainable. Yeah, because it's not rational. We have the wrong priorities. Yeah? So the last one, before we finish. So I've collected together, you see, we have all these great intellectuals. They've like paved the way for us to reconnect. So when we stop thinking money, and we start to think intellectually, we realize that, oh, there's so many knowledge for us available and so much wisdom. I'm going to give you some of them. There is nothing like a dream to create the future. Why do you think Victor Hugo said that? Do you have any idea? Or why did Albert Einstein say imagination is more important than knowledge? They were stupid or they were seeing something special? Who think they were stupid? We are not stupid, right? The most brilliant brain on this planet. Yeah? Well, I tell you what they saw. They realized that our thoughts create our reality. Yeah? And that when we change our thoughts, we change our reality. And not only our thoughts create our reality, but our dream and our imagination create our future. The reality we have today is the dream of our ancestors. They dreamed to have all this abundance, all this power that we have. But now that we have it, we must dream about what do we want now. Yeah? So dreaming is really important. Don't be too realist. Because you kill one of the best tools that we have, which is human imagination, which can create our future. And if we can dream together, there's so much we can accomplish. Be the change you want to see. Why did you think Mahatma Gandhi said that? Because if we all wait for one another to change, we'll all wait forever. So, don't wait for the other. They'll catch the train later. Be a pioneer. Others don't want to follow you? Do it. Get your experience. You'll learn more. If you have faith in yourself, I can tell you, you can break borders. You can break walls, invisible walls that are not real. It's amazing. The time is always right to do what is right. Yeah. So, when I share this kind of stuff, some people tell me, but is it too late? It's too late. It's already the end. It's same. Hey, it's too late to say it's too late. The time is now. We are still alive. We still have possibilities. So if we say it's too late, it's absurd. It doesn't make sense, right? Too late for what? Now is the time. And the last one, in all chaos, there is a cosmos, and in all disorder, a secret order. From Carl Gustav Jung. I love this psychologist. Why do you think he said that? In all chaos, there is cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Really, really good guy. Amazing research. Because, you know, I used to see the world and it was looking scary and chaotic. Very difficult to understand. I could not understand humans, why we are doing this, why our nature is like that. But now I understand that there's a reason for it. There's an heritage. There's a way our psychology functions. There is a secret order behind the disorder. And then once we understand the secret order, we can start to change and make order in a disorder. It's very, very powerful. So that's really the conclusion we're going to have to stop. I took my time, and I hope really I help you, because there's so many more to cover. I try to give you essence of knowledge, and I invite you to do your research either through us or by yourself, because, I mean, this you have really access to everything. It's your choice. You want to watch all the stupid stuff that is there, you can. You can numb your consciousness and your intelligence, it's all over the place. But you can be one of the few who start to understand that this is not only about being stupid, it's about getting knowledge that we need for us and for others. Yeah? Do you have any question before we stop? It can be anything before we conclude. And don't be shy. Yes, please.
Why do some people don't believe in climate change?
Oh, that's a very good question. So there's plenty of response to that, and it's individual. So why, I will expand the question, if you don't mind, to why some people are so keen to deny reality. It's because reality is conflicting with their core belief. So many people, because we study that, who, for example, question climate change or don't want to believe in climate change, is because they're afraid of what climate change means. It means it's questioning capitalism. It's questioning nationalism. It can, in some cases, question religion. And so people are so afraid to question themselves and their core belief that they prefer to deny reality. Another reason is that there is big lobbying campaign being made to create doubt. Just like during the cigarettes, when science started to say that cigarette was so unhealthy, corporations, cigarette sellers created campaigns to make people believe that it's not unhealthy. And so their aim was not to convince people that it's not unhealthy, but just to create enough doubt. Because with doubt, then nothing can be made. When you have doubt, you're not going to do something. And they succeeded. It took 30 years between the moment science said cigarettes were dangerous to the first real laws to reduce cigarettes consumption. So there's beliefs, there's money, there's power. Why are we so attached to our beliefs? It's back because they are repressing our fear. It's linked to trauma as well. You know, climate change, one of the big lessons of climate change is that we're all on the same planet. Many Americans are afraid of that because their country is on top of the game and they don't want to share their power. Yeah? And they want a growing economy and they want, their economy is built on fossil fuel. And so it's not in their interest to believe in climate change. You even have a quote from Ivanka Trump that says, if a perception is benefiting you, don't change it if reality is contradicting it. Keep it. It's like, just keep the beliefs that are in your self-interest, no matter what is reality. And that is crazy. Because, if your belief makes you reject reality, you become disconnected from reality. In other words, you become delusional. And that's a state of psychosis. It might be socially accepted, but it's still a disconnection from reality. It's very, very dangerous, and we see a lot of that. And there's a lot of fear and business interest in it. And of course, back to traumas. The fear that, if I accept that reality, my world will collapse because everything that I believe will be proven wrong. It's like back in the days, the first people that saw that the planet was round, they were persecuted. Because they were scaring people who were believing that it's flat, simply because, we are afraid to question our belief. But in that case, it's like business interest, national interest. It's a dirty game. Does that reply to the question? Yeah. Any other question? But you see how everything is interdependent and interconnected. Huh? It's back to fear, huh? And back to traumas and belief. And competition for power. And greed. Oh, by the way, greed, just one thing about it. So psychologists study greed. It's a form of addiction. And it links to childhood traumas, lack of self-confidence, anxiety that is trying to be concentrated by having always more. It's like a drug. Saying like people, who have drug problems or alcohol problems. There's addiction that are socially accepted. Addiction to work. Addiction to money. But it's the same root cause. I'm broken inside and I'm trying to do something to forget about it, and it's toxic. It always links back to the same root cause. Ourselves, and what we've not dealt with yet. The heritage from the past that we've not dealt yet. Any other question? Are you all right? You gonna be okay with all of this? So just one advice, because we know that. So your world perception may shift a little bit if you've listened well. That's normal. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be too worried if you feel some emotion sometime, because, just get on with it. It's part of the process. In order to deal with our traumas and our fear, we have to experience them. Yeah? And if we repress them, if we try to run away from them, we cannot deal with it. Yeah? So whatever you feel, be okay with it. Be nice to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. The first person you must be compassionate with is yourself. If you have no compassion for yourself, you will have no compassion for others. Right? We cannot give what we don't have. So really, I hope this helps you to understand you and others, so, we can come from a space of more compassion to heal. Because we need one another, right? To face these challenges. Okay? Any other question? Yes?
So can I ask, so you said that you write that one from Martin Luther King, that the time is always right to do what is right.
Yeah.
And I think that you believe in that, but in my opinion, I don't think I believe in that.
Great.
Especially in the ecological problems.
Yes.
Like the examples, mines, like whatever we're mining now, it's not the thing that we can recycle or find again. And even if we want to save our planet, it will take years.
Sure.
Do you think we still can save our planet with it, or we should go to another place? It's not impossible.
Okay,
right?
so let's be realistic. Okay, we are 7.7 billions. No, but it's a very good question, and please don't laugh, because many people think like that, and it's normal. Yeah, it's normal, and we have to discuss about this. Elon Musk is a brilliant man. It's his idea. It's like, okay, he said it. Huh? Sorry for the word. Fuck Earth. He's planning to go on Mars. But how are we going to move 7.7 billion people out of this planet in a living place? It's a suicide. I think realistically, logically, rationally, we shouldn't try to run away to another planet. We should try to start taking care of our own. Because, if we try to think that the plan is to move 7.7 billion people on Mars, we may find that actually only 10,000 can do it, and their survival won't be guaranteed, and we find ourselves pretty stuck. So it's not the end of the world. We can fix this. Yeah? Nature is so resilient. It's amazing. We just need to slow down on how much we are impacting damage. Yeah? It's going to repair itself. Just like our body repairs itself. So it's really about trusting our planet as well, because really, if we try to run away there, oh man, how many of us will make it? And those who are doing that, I feel very sorry for them. You know, some people, some billionaires today are investing in bunkers. They are storing food there, but I mean, what do they expect? And if it really collapses, I mean, what will people do? Of course we will go and find them. Because we'll be like, you know, what have you been doing? And you lied to us, giving these promises of development, and you knew it was not going to happen, and you constructed a bunker. So, you know, like, we got to be rational and realistic. Yeah? Our place for now, our home is here, it's planet Earth. So if some crazy scientists want to run away to Mars, I say, yeah, good luck with that. Me, that's my home. Yeah? And I don't want to live on a stone, because, you know, Moon or Mars is not very welcoming. Eh? There's no river, there's no forest. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure at some point we will be able to develop in the universe. I believe that, if we don't self-terminate. But before we start to expand in the universe, let's learn to integrate the limits of our planet. Yeah? It's not too complicated. It's just about understanding that our planet has limits and that they need to be respected. You know, we are talking about being rational as a species. Can we be rational? Yeah. But we need to have these conversations, because if we don't have them, we're never gonna move forward. But thanks for asking that, and thanks for saying that. And I recommend us to stay here and to fix our problem here.
Telling us that we should go to Mars, but maybe we have to find another resources from another planet, because that might be possible.
Sure. And if we can do that, it's great. But for the moment, we have to take with what we have. Yeah. And probably, of course, I am sure we'll find new resources, etc. But let's first be here and now and fix our problems here, and then we can look at other potentials. Yeah. So let's not bet on that. Let's bet on ourselves and on our intelligence, on our consciousness. That's my bet, at least. And just to say, yes, some people are betting on technology. They say, no, we are too unconscious and too stupid. It's just technology that's going to save us. I think it's very, very dramatic. Yeah. Because it's a little bit like, you know what's happening? It's like we have, our technological power has increased too fast, and we didn't take the time to look inside. Yeah. So we are too unconscious for the power that we have, but we can fix that. I can guarantee that we can fix that. So trust yourself, trust others, trust humanity. Yes, we can. Anything else?
Can I ask one more?
Sure.
Okay. So you said that overpopulation is also a problem.
Yes.
And the Earth is not going to be wider or bigger.
Yes.
So how are we going to fix that?
Okay, very.
One more thing. Do you think it is possible that the governments make like viruses for population control?
Okay, so first question first. How can we fix overpopulation? Well, very often, natality rates are linked with lack of education and women disempowerment. Yeah? So high natality rates happen in places where women are repressed by men, and where poverty or education is low. It can also be sometimes linked with the fear of being dominated. You know, traditionally, the tribe, one of the advantages for the tribe is to have more men than the other tribe. Yeah? So some, like in Turkey, for example, the president has just said that a woman who gets raped and pregnant should marry with the man who has raped her. And one of the reasons is that he believes they need more people to be a strong nation. So you see, it's linked back to the same willing to dominate, etc., of the nation. So all of this needs to be understood. Yeah, there's no, like, we need to come from a position of understanding, like, okay, we are not going to invade your nation, like, we can start to learn to share this environment. So, I mean, the best way to deal with overpopulation and natality rate is to deal with poverty, lack of education, and fear, again. Yeah? Then second question, is the government inventing virus and stuff like this? I don't know, and I wouldn't go too much paranoid about that, because unless we know, we know. If we don't know, I hope they don't, because they are psychopathic in their own way, but I hope it doesn't go that far. So I would say let's not get paranoid. Yeah, let's be realistic. What we need to ask for the government is transparency. Yeah, so we don't need to worry about what they do, because we need to. What's important, you know, in a rational society that functions well, the more you have power, the more you need to be transparent, right? Logically. But what we see is the opposite. Those who need to be transparent is us, and them, they work in secrecy. Say, okay, bon, that's the traditional way of doing things. Let's, you know, put like, we should see what you do to make sure that you protect our interests as much as you see what we do, and even more, yeah? Because having a position of leadership is being in service to others, yeah? If you're in service to others, you shouldn't have to hide what you do. The problem that we have today is that, yes, I know, because of this competition, you know, paradigm, power is not at the service of people, it's at the service of itself. And so it's protecting itself, but it's back to fear as well, because they are afraid of people, because we don't trust each other. So it's really always back to the same, you know, it's the same subject again and again. It's like learning to trust each other, and we need transparency, and we need to come from a space of mutual understanding. I have my traumas, you know, from where I come, you have yours. We are all wounded. How do we repair ourselves? Yeah. And first is recognize these wounds, these fears. We haven't done that yet because we are too afraid to look at it. Yeah. Any other question? I enjoy, it's the moment. After, it's too late. If you have a question you want to ask, well, you can still contact us. We'll try. If you have any question related to what we've shared, you can contact us, and we do our best to reply. And also, if some of you want to be pioneers in this and help to share that knowledge, we welcome it. Yeah. So if some of you want to share this knowledge with your campus, or having us sharing this knowledge to your campus, or helping you being leaders who can share that, we're really happy to do it. I don't want this to be a one-man show. I want you to be empowered and, you know, to be able to do the same. This is not a one-man show. This is, you know, in this we are team. We are really team. We cannot deal with this stuff by yourself. We need each other. Yeah? So if some of you already feel that, do not hesitate to find us. And if it's not today, if it's later, it's going to be later. That's fine too. All right? Any other question? Well, thank you very much for being here. It's really a pleasure. And I just noticed one thing is there's about 80% of women. I am not surprised, because the change that we need is also the empowerment of women. You know, men tend to be too competitive and too destructive sometimes. So we need the feminine to step up the game to help us. Yeah, we cannot let men in power like we've always done. Like that's the old ways. When we need to fight to survive, yeah, men were to be in power. But now we need to learn to share. So we need women. So I'm very happy to see that. So women trust each other, because you have a big role to play in that. And men trust women, because they are with us. Yeah? And they gave us life. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Ms. Katri. If no one is going to ask any more questions, I guess that was clear. We would like to give you a little gift from LSDR.
Okay.
Anybody goes, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And really, my appreciation to you.
This one for you.
Okay, thank you.
Let's take a picture together.
Let's take a picture.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for welcoming us, and hope we can organize more stuff. We have far more to share. We are just scratching the surface.